Wendy, who's preparing for her marriage, and Christine, who's out and about. Okay, so welcome everybody. Those of you who are not familiar with our process, our committee looks at the applications. We make comments, ask questions of the applicants. We also see if anybody from the community is here and wants to make a comment. And then we send our recommendations to the full board. The full board accepts it or rejects it, modifies it, sends it on to the state liquor authority, who of course makes the final decision. We make a recommendation, but we don't have the final authority. That's what goes with the state liquor authority. And Frank, you know the statement about why we're meeting on Zoom?
Sure. Under the city's emergency order, which is continuing for at least a couple of weeks, public meetings such as this one are allowed to take place on Zoom, provided that we simulcast them live on YouTube and then keep the video posted on YouTube. So this meeting is being live streamed and will be memorialized on YouTube for the foreseeable future. So please keep that in mind in your comments tonight. Also, I think we're getting the sense that the city's state of emergency may be allowed to expire soon, which will mean the community board will be going to what we planned as hybrid meetings, which will require a quorum of every committee in the board to be present live and once we achieve that, anyone else can join electronically via Zoom. So it's possible that'll help happen as soon as next month, but that'll all be announced on our website.
Right. Okay. So I think I've been on this committee for many months, many years, a long time. And I think tonight's agenda with 5 items may be a record for our shortest agenda. I'm not saying it will always be this way. Who knows why it's 5 tonight, and a couple of months ago it might have been 15. Who knows? But let's just go right into it. Item number 1, as you can see on our agenda, we are arranged by the type of license application before us. So the first grouping is the new wine, beer, and cider license applications. And number 1 on that is 98 8th Avenue, Tangy Noodle LLC. Is the attorney and/or applicant here? James?
I'm here.
Okay, go for it.
Okay. So that one, this location.
You're a little bit weak in the sound, James.
So the board 4 is already approved for the.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Oh no. Hello.
I think it's better. Okay.
So this location is already have the beer and wine license. The board is approved for the pre-owner. Right now, the new owner signed the lease. They will keep all of the same. Hour will be 11 to 12, 7 days a week. And they will adjust around 40 seats. And so they will be for the restaurant background music only, no outside use. So in future, maybe they planning to apply for the front, but right now is no front approved yet. So when they approve, of course they have to go to the DOT and they have to go to the board.
Okay.
Hey, James, did you say your client wants background music? Because that's not circle form. I'll change that.
Just background music only. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. That's all I have.
Okay. Any committee members have any questions, comments? Tina, your hand is raised.
Yeah. This actually, I don't know what page it is, but where it relates to community notification relations, you indicate send email to the list from Community Board 4 and then wait for the answer. I'm just curious, did you send any notice to anyone, any block associations?
Yes, I did. I did send the email to all of listing on your chart. Yeah. Okay. So only one answer me. They said okay. So no, they want looking for the application, but not any answer from the black association. No, no objection, nothing.
Okay, thank you.
Any other
And also
questions,
by
comment? Sorry, James, go ahead.
I sent to the black association. Also, I did CC to your board.
Carrie,
Sorry if you mentioned this, I missed it. There's no change to the hours?
No, so
Okay.
11 to 12, and definitely will be closer by 12 for 7 days.
And that's the
So
same
right
as
now-
what was before? Okay, thank you.
They may be operate a little late, a little shorter, but anyway, so we put on 12 for the safety. So they are no longer by 12 o'clock.
okay. Any other additional comments, questions? Anybody from the community have a hand raised, Nellie?
No, there's no one.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I think we'll entertain a,
Motion to recommend approval with stipulations?
Second.
okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Present not eligible? Abstaining. Okay, passes. Thank you, James.
Thank-
Moving on to item number 2 on the agenda. 401 West 24th Street, Heng Dee LLC.
Hello, hi, good evening. My name is Jonathan Ng. I'm the representative of Heng Dee LLC and the owner, Miss Boon 3. We know her as Mai. She is also in this meeting. Thank you for inviting us. If there's any time you cannot hear my voice, please let me know. So Heng Dee LLC DBA Mason Kitaro is a new Japanese cuisine restaurant at the location that was used to be occupied by a Mexican restaurant who used to have a bootlegger. But my client only seek to acquire the beer and wine only. She have experience in running restaurant and team up with a best friend of hers to deliver high quality Japanese food to the neighborhood. She only seeks to have the BNY license for indoor only, no outdoor space, no rooftop, no sidewalk, just plainly indoor in her store. The maximum capacity is 50 person, 14 tables, 34 seats. The hours are 12 p.m. noon to 3:30 p.m. and then they will have a break and then reopen from 5 to 9:30 p.m. Tuesday to Saturdays. Sunday is 12 to 8 straight. Monday is closed. And if Mai, do you want to chime in? Did I miss anything or did I say something wrong, say something stupid? I mean, you can correct me if you can.
Hi, Jonathan. Hi, community board. My name is Mai. I'm the owner of Maison Quintero on 24th Street of 9th Avenue. Thank you so much for inviting us to the meeting. And just like Jonathan said, we'll be serving a Japanese home cooked meal, and you are invited if you are in the area. We like to seek to have a beer, wine, and some sake to go with our food, and that will probably, enhance the experience for our customers. And that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you. You
Aye.
cleared up.
I had a couple questions about your
Frank?
hours.
Sorry. I just want to say you cleared up for me. I wasn't sure on the application If you were a new restaurant opening up in the space, in addition to the Japanese restaurant, but you clarified it, the previous occupant, which was not a Mexican restaurant, by the way,
I'm sorry.
it was not a Mexican restaurant. Quinto Pino had a front, which originally was the bar area and a couple of tables. And then they expanded eastward. They took over what had been a residential apartment
Right.
and used that as a wider space for eating and dining. Okay? No bar. The bar was in the front room. So what you're saying is really, you just want to take over that space that existed before.
We take over as in the chart that I submitted is the bar area plus the dining area.
Plus the dining area that existed before. So when you
Yes.
first opened up your
Bernard,
restaurant, it was only
Bernard,
the
I think
bar
that's
area.
right. If you look at the seating plan, it seems to include the former residential unit.
Yeah, that's, I didn't know that until I looked at it.
Right.
That's why I'm
So you're taking over what the prior place had when they closed.
Yes, exactly the same floor plan, did not do any structural renovation, demolition at all whatsoever. Exactly the place that was left as when El Quinto Pino left, with the dining area and the bar area.
So it's the same space.
Exactly the same space.
And this is also good news because then you're expecting that the space you have for your existing restaurant is not sufficient for the customers you're going to expect to have. So you need more space.
Exactly. Yep.
Any questions, Frank?
Yeah, I have a couple questions for the applicant about hours. I see the hours you provided. You know, you're going to be open for lunch and then reopen for dinner. Would it be safer for you to have your hours run continuously from noon to, you know, the evening closing time? You don't have to stay open those hours, but if you stick with these hours, it would mean you couldn't serve liquor between 3:30 and 5.
Correct.
So you want to keep it that way, or do you want to change it to 12 to 9:30?
Will it be as of right now, because we just started? So we have a limited staff, and our staff needs, we like to, you know, give them an hour to you know, rest before the dinner shift.
Yeah, no, that's fine. You even if we change the hours, you do not have to stay open. That would just allow.
Oh,
Frank is offering you flexibility.
Right.
okay.
You don't have to have the door open between those hours, but
But
6
it
months
will
from
be
now,
listed
if you
as
decide you want to, you could without coming back to us.
Oh, okay. Jonathan, any input on that?
It's your business decision. I don't run the restaurant.
Alrighty, yes, that will be for the future, that we have a possibility to run it throughout the whole day when we have more staff and they can take turn taking a break. So the restaurant will be open throughout the whole hours.
Do
Okay.
you want us to change those hours?
Please.
Yeah. So we'll change them to 12 to 9:30. Then my second question is to make sure what you understand by the closing hours of 9:30 and 8 o'clock on Sunday. That's the time when your business has to be closed and vacated of all patrons. It's not last reservation. It's not last call. Everyone has to be gone. So I just want to make sure that's really when, you know, you want to be basically closed to the public at 9:30 on Tuesday to Saturday and 8 p.m. on Sunday.
Oh, then that will not be the case, because the time that I put in, I understood as it for the last seating.
No.
So
what-
the customer will still be at the restaurant. If they step their foot in at 8 o'clock, they still be able to order everything off the menu, and the bar, if we get the liquor license, they will probably stay for, I would say, give and take hour and a half to finish their meal.
So you want to make it 11 p.m. on Tuesday to Saturday and 10 p.m. on Sunday?
Yes, please.
Again,
everyone-
you don't have to,
everyone-
yeah.
You don't have to stay open, but you,
but again, it gives you flexibility in
Thank
your
you.
operations.
okay. So just so everyone's clear, the hours are now 12 noon to 11 PM, Tuesday to Saturday, and Sunday from 12 noon to 10 PM. And those are shorter hours than the Quinta Pino had.
Okay. Any additional questions, comments from committee people? Nellie, community?
There's no one.
Okay. Do I hear a resolution?
Yes.
Motion
To make,
to adopt.
second,
Okay, all those in favor with the new hours?
Aye.
Opposed, present not eligible, abstaining. Okay, good luck.
Thank you.
Okay. Item number 3 on our agenda. 383 West 31st Street, Yo Sushi.
Hi, how are you?
Okay,
Can you see me, hear me?
you can see and hear you, Jonathan. Go ahead.
Great, thank you so much. So a little bit about myself and what we're doing.
Yeah, was that a question or this is you going ahead and telling us?
It's a
Why don't you go ahead
question
and
that
tell
I'm not
us?
going to wait for an answer. I'll just go ahead. Okay.
Right.
So again, my name is Jonathan Moore. I own currently a restaurant called Bond Street, located downtown on Bond Street. It's a Japanese restaurant. It's been there for 25 years now. And also we own 2 locations. They're called Go Fish. They're both located in food halls owned by Hudson, not Hudson Yards, I'm sorry, by oh my God, I forget what they're called. I'm a little bit nervous here. They're located inside food halls, and it's basically a grab and go sushi. So the sushi is packaged in little boxes, and they're pre-made, fresh pre-made, like constantly, not just once. And we're currently looking at opening a space at the Moynihan Food Hall, the new train station, and that would be a little bit of a combination of both. We'll have one part of it that will be grab and go sushi, that's as I said, ready, packaged to go. And we're also going to have a sushi bar, a sushi counter that will seat, I think, 11 people. And over there, we'll be serving omakase style, Japanese food, as well as hot food. We'll have rice bowls and also the best of the best, as we call it, from our restaurant Bond Street, which is mostly appetizers. And our hours will be 11 a.m. to 10 p.m., which is basically the hours dictated by, by the food hall. And we're looking for, as you know, wine and beer license. In that food hall, there's a large bar, and that caters to to the whole, basically to everybody. It's the only place that serves alcohol. But together with the owners of the food hall, Vornado, we realized that if we want people, you see, all the other places, you basically go, you grab some food, and then you sit at a common area. But since we have a sushi bar, it just made sense for us to have our own liquor license. So while people sit there, they can basically, drink while they're eating. It's not meant to be taken out of our space. It's just meant for people that dine with us.
Okay, thank you. Any
Welcome.
questions, comments from committee people? I see head shaking. No. Okay.
Well, that wasn't very difficult.
No, wait, but maybe there's somebody from the community. Nellie?
There's no one.
Okay. So Jonathan, you did it.
motion to
Maybe-
recommend approval with stipulations.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, present not eligible, abstaining. Okay? Thank
Thank
you,
you so
Jonathan.
much, everyone. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Take care.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Now we're going into the second part of our agenda, which are new liquor, wine, beer, and cider license applications. We have two on 23rd Street. Item number 4 is 161 West 23rd Street.
Hey Bert, Joseph Levy here. On behalf of 161 Part 2 LLC. I have all my clients assembled here with me. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, terrific. So no one to promote, everybody's here in the room. The application before you is an on-premise liquor license. It's a sale of assets. So we're going to be doing a transfer here, maintaining the exact same method of operation with respect to hours, music, size, all those things. So I can run through the specifics if you'd like. Hours of operation, Monday through Wednesday, 4 p.m. to 2 a.m. Thursday through Saturday, 4 p.m. to 4 a.m. Sunday, noon to 2 a.m. There's no outdoor space here, DOT or otherwise. Music will be live, DJ, jukebox, all of the above. This is 23rd between 6th and 7th. Again, it's an OP license transfer. The current tenant there is Motel 23. That's selling their assets to these gentlemen. The team who's here with me in my office, it's a team of experienced operators. As you can see in the packet, they have other licenses that are currently active. About 15 years or so license history in New York City. 2 floors here. If you're not familiar with the space, it's been licensed for 20 years or so. We've got 2,500 square feet over those 2 floors. The capacity total is about 190 between the 2 floors. Downstairs is mostly back of house, some restrooms, and a private room for patrons of about 30 head count downstairs. Everything else is on the ground floor. Got 14 tables, 60 seats at those tables, 2 bars, one on the main floor with 13 seats, one in that downstairs smaller room that has 2 seats at it. You guys have any questions? We're here to answer them for you.
Yeah, Joseph, I'm sort of confused about the numbers. I mean, I understand the 190 C of O, which is basically roughly the number that's been on every application for this space. And I think I personally have seen at least 4 of them since I've been doing this. But the numbers don't really add up, because then you say maximum number of persons is 70, which seems.
So I'm sorry, that's a typo. It should be 170 is the total number of persons anticipated, with 150 patrons, 20 staff. So that's just a typo. I'm sorry about that.
Okay, but you still only have 60 seats on both floors?
You guys want to talk about the seat count?
Yeah, the seat and table count.
The upstairs ground floor will have, my name's Cole Bernard, by the way. One of the principals.
Joseph, we don't need to waste time on this. Can you fill out that page we have for multiple floor venues that's part of the STIP form?
Yes.
Give us the numbers for each floor.
No problem.
Seats, tables, bars, seats at bars.
No problem. You'll have that. We'll have that shortly.
All right.
And when do we need that by, Nellie?
I will need it by the 30th.
Okay, we'll get it to you long before then. We'll shoot for tomorrow.
Good.
Okay.
Thank you.
The other stipulations that seem to have appeared with every applicant, and I assume you're okay with these, no outside promoters will be used. I think you said yes to that on the form.
Yes, yes.
And there will be no open flame cooking that requires exhaust systems?
Yes, correct.
Okay, so we can include those 2 as additional steps?
Absolutely, and we gave you a security plan as well, just so that, you know, we have it and we're thinking about things like that.
Okay, so we'll add those 2 as additional steps and expect the capacity numbers from you soon.
Yep.
That's what I have, Bert.
Okay, also, there was a stip from prior. The front door should be closed.
Yep, no problem there either.
Okay. And we will get a copy of that security plan, I assume.
It's in your package.
Oh, it's in the package.
That came in today.
That came in. Okay, good. I see in this order, Jesse, Carrie, and then Tina.
Sorry, guys, I'm trying to find the security plan, but if you can just answer it verbally, then I don't have to. Do you have a plan for, because Motel 23 definitely had a bouncer outside for late night hours. Is that the plan here as well?
Yes, there will be security on site, making sure the frontage is clear and clean and people are not smoking right outside, and there aren't too many cars idling, and there's not people queuing, and they're going to maintain the frontage the best that they can.
Yep, great. So, and the queuing issue is, and also, just because of where it is, obviously just about noise as well, to making sure that your, security team is told that they're part of their job description is also to make sure that while people are queuing, if they're queuing, to shut up.
Absolutely. And again, these gentlemen have done this a number of times throughout New York City and outside New York City. They're familiar doing this in residential neighborhoods even. So they have a pretty well-versed team and a good relationship with the security company.
Great. Awesome. Thanks so much.
Okay, Carrie, Tina, and then Inga.
I just have a question about the hours for music. If you're closing at 4 and your music ends at 4, is that like a kind of a conflict? Aren't you trying to have everybody out by 4, just for example?
Yeah, it will start to wind down probably closer to 3:45 or so, right before closing.
And you don't need a sound study because this has already been an established nightclub?
Yeah, we know that there has been extensive soundproofing in the building previously from prior operators. So as far as our testing's gone, it's been fine. But what's that? Vacant. And the upper floor directly above it's vacant as well. But if there are additional sound concerns, we're happy to talk about them.
And what is on the upper floor though? Because it could be not vacant. Is it commercial?
It's office space, yeah.
Office space. Okay, thank you.
And
Tina, Inga, and Ted.
yeah, just one to comment on that. 2 applicants ago, this was going to be primarily a live music venue, and there was a lot of concern about sound. So they did a lot of testing at that point and a lot of soundproofing, as I recall things.
And that was actually a client of mine as well. And one of the principals was a sound engineer. So I if memory serves, they did a tremendous amount of work and spent a lot of money on it.
Right. And there were issues with Motel 23, obviously, but they did not relate to noise.
Correct. We're going to have a very different operation, and it's worth noting that this is an asset sale, and no one from the Motel 23 group is involved in this operations group.
Okay. Tina, Inga, and Ted.
I was looking at your letters that were attached, and I didn't check each one, every one of them, but it appears that a lot of the letters that you got in support are not from the block. There was just one that I saw from like 40 West 23rd. So it begs the question, have you attempted to get feedback from your neighbors? And if so, why aren't there letters from people actually on the block versus 5 blocks away?
Sure.
So I stood on West 23rd Street for a good 4 hours over the last couple weekends. And, there's directly across the street from the space, there is one residential building next door to the supermarket, and not a lot of people coming and going. Most of the people that were walking on West 23rd, whether it's eastbound or westbound, are transient, coming and going, coming out of the subway. So there's not a lot of residential on that that corridor on 23rd Street. But a lot of the letters that we did submit to you guys are within a 2-block radius. We had letters that came from residents on West 21st between 5th and 6th, residents on 18th Street and 8th Ave that have been there for 20 plus years, residents on 21st between 6th and 7th. So we got a good variety of of residents throughout the neighborhood, residents that pretty much all fall within the board, north, south, east, and west of the venue. But in terms of residential, there's not a lot of residential that's left on 23rd Street, in particular between 6th and 7th.
And it's worth noting also that we did send an email out to the list of block associations as well. We got a few responses. We sent out full copies of the packet that we prepared for the board to anyone who reached out with additional questions.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, I'm looking at the street and there seems to be a lot of residential, but maybe I'm missing something. I'm not from that area, but it definitely looks pretty
Directly southbound of, if you're facing south of the space, you have the grocery store. There is a grocery store to the west of the, there is a residential building to the west of the grocery store. We did stand there for a good period of time getting signatures and looking for people throughout the day, but there just wasn't a lot of traffic coming in and out of these buildings when we were out there. A lot of the people either just didn't live in the neighborhood, so on and so forth. I even went over to the Trader Joe's on 6th Ave, stood there for a period of time. I stood at the Citibank on the corner of 23rd and 6th. I've been in the neighborhood for a really long time, so I know the neighborhood well. Again, 2 blocks over on 21st between 6th and 7th was another close resident that we had submitted a letter of recommendation. 21st between 5th and 6th, same thing. 18th Street. So we did the best we could in terms of direct 23rd between 6th and 7th of what's there.
Okay. Anything additional, Tina?
No, I'll wait to hear from the community, I guess.
Inga?
Hi, so did you reach out to Celis Manor at all? Because that is a major block for them. Did you reach out to anyone at that? That is a residential building that's nearby, and they walk their dogs. They go to the Malibu Diner all the time. It's a local place, so you're going to have a lot of blind people on the sidewalk, and they do walk their dogs day and night. Did you reach out to them at all?
What's the name of the building?
Celis Manor. It's the blind building that's right down the street. It's between you and, it's to the left of you. So it's east of you. Malibu Diner is right to the right. So they go there a lot. No?
I think she's asking if you spoke to anyone from there. From that particular building, no, not that exact.
Okay.
Not that exact one.
Okay, they're just east of you.
Okay.
You might want to reach out to them, and do be aware that there are a lot of residents. Bert, you know, the entire building is residential blind. So you get a lot of people walking their dogs and going to the Malibu Diner. I have a concern just with your security at night outside. Over the years, it's been a few things, and I forget which one. It was before the live music. It was like 2 venues ago. They had a lot of problems outside at night on the sidewalk. So walking home, I would actually walk on the other side of the street just to avoid it. So it tends to get a little rough from my experience. You can have outside.
Yeah, so I can say that certainly we were at I think it was Manhattan Community Board 5 for one of their other places. Recently, we had someone come and speak in support, saying that their security allows them to walk home safely at night. So they're very in tune to that. And, you know, the company that they have worked with for years and will work with here is a company that's familiar with New York City and understands how to be a good neighbor.
Okay, yeah, the other company that had security outside, a bouncer, just was part of the whole problem. He didn't really take care of it. So just make sure that you have someone out there that's responsible and not just hanging out with whatever crowd is outside.
Yeah,
150%.
of course. And we're gonna make sure that, people like yourself have contact information for us as well. So if you ever get a whiff of something that you don't like, you let us know, we'll take care of it.
Okay, and then Malibu Diner is, like I said, the blind actually go there all the time. It's a local diner. A lot of families and people go there. So just make sure that you're careful at night that they're not overflowing and causing problems.
We will make an effort to not only talk to the Malibu Diner folks to understand what they need and what their patrons need, but also to go to this building that you mentioned that we weren't aware of. And see what we can do.
It's a special
Yeah.
needs building.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's residents with special needs.
Correct.
Happy to do that.
Okay.
Families, they even have children in there. So thank you.
Inga, how has the street been under the more recent operators like Motel 23? Was there an improvement or is it the same?
It was quieter. It was quiet. It's been quieter. It was, it had been really bad where I'm usually fine walking through even aggressive crowds, but they got bad. So if I was walking home at night, I would cross the street.
Yeah.
So especially, later after midnight, it got a little dicey there.
We don't want you to have to do that.
Yeah, Malibu Diner at the time I don't know if they were open that late. Now they're open later and they've kept the neighborhood really good. They keep the sidewalk clean and there's never a problem. But you should be aware of the special needs blind place and Malibu Diner, so.
Appreciate that. We're going to do that. Thank you.
Okay.
Ed and then Candace.
I just wanted to ask, you guys mentioned this is a transfer. Is this a transfer of a liquor license or this is just a key money for the purchase of the assets inside?
Well, it's actually one and the same. So it's a key money deal. There's an asset purchase agreement, which opens up the ability for us to do a transfer, which is a bit of a misnomer. Admittedly, it really is a brand new liquor license, but allows us to apply for a temporary permit as well, so that it's more of a seamless and quicker transfer from one ownership group to the next.
Because from what I've experienced and what I know the SLA law to be, you need to own 80% of the former tenant's LLC to get the.
No, that's a corporate change. We're not doing that. We don't want to be in bed with these guys. We don't want to be part of their company. This is a brand new group starting from scratch, but because we're buying the assets, we're able to qualify for this temporary permit as opposed to being added to their existing liquor license.
Okay, I'm not sure about that, but I'm just gonna ask you guys to look into that if that's what you're planning on doing. I also was there about a year ago, and to the former company, the music was extremely loud inside. However, outside it was very quiet. So I'm just attesting to some of the comments that Tina might have been concerned about the neighbors, is that it was very quiet on the outside. So I would have no problem approving their application as is, for me anyways, but I would also just take Inga's, her comments into consideration about keeping the sidewalks clear and the pathway, especially for the blind people at nighttime.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, anything more, Ted? Okay, Candace.
I had a couple questions again, like with the blind housing that's right there. But Inga's already gotten that. My concern now is the traffic that's going to be coming out of there. I was looking at the menu and it's like it's bottles you're serving, it looks like, from the menu. So I'm just thinking there is that residential area on the south side. So I'm just trying to think of like, it's going to be honking. You're adding more traffic to that area, people being picked up at that time. So I'm just trying to figure out what kind of crowd are you expecting to be there? Again, it's just the traffic. It is a very quiet area with the Malibu Diner and I used to live on 23rd Street right next to the Chelsea Hotel. So I know the block. It is very quiet. So I'm just thinking of the traffic that's going to be coming at 4 o'clock in the morning to pick up these patrons.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think the idea here is like they're not looking to attract that college crowd. That's not the vibe here. They're hoping for a more mature audience, people who can maybe handle themselves a little bit better. And I think that their operations team and the security team is going to have to work on a plan that makes sense for how they can disperse people, where they can disperse people, to prevent just a lot of people on the sidewalk and a bunch of cars, lining up with no real orderly fashion to it, because it's not going to work if they want to do that. So they have to work through that. And I think part of it is going to be, kind of working through it as they begin, as they see what the patterns are and what direction they can push people. Maybe there's a different way to disperse people up towards one corner, towards the other corner, whichever one works better, as to not disturb people on the block and to not create more of a traffic issue right in front of the space.
I was looking through the papers and I was like Jesse trying to find the security plan. Is there something? Do you guys have a traffic plan? I'd rather you guys have something and then.
Yeah, we sent it in. It was a late submission, so maybe it's not in your packet, but there's a pretty extensive plan in here. I'll just reference it if you don't want to up your head.
So the plan kind of that we put together kind of highlights all the guards, what their responsibilities would be, from all the way from the 4 guards that we probably use on any given night to the supervisor. 23rd Street between 6th and 7th over the last few years, you have a lot of traffic coming out of all 3 train stations, whether it's the corner of 6th Avenue or the 2 corners on 7th Avenue. So it's definitely going to be something that we're going to try to push most of the crowds towards the corners and away from pickups directly in front of the venue. We're gonna do our best in terms of having someone floating in the street to push cars along, from Ubers to town cars that might be idling up front, to avoid any honking or congestion in the front. So that's kind of where our security team will do its best in terms of moving traffic along so that there's no idling in front. But in terms of when dispersing at night, probably will be towards 7th Avenue, since it's closest, so that we're not, pushing up, most of the volume of the crowd down, towards 6th, since 7th Avenue is a little bit closer.
And while there is, DJ and live music and things like this, it's not an event space per se. So I don't imagine there'll be a situation where you're going to have just 200 people coming out at once. It'll be a staged disbursement towards the end of the night, most likely.
And
Right.
I guess I'd also point out that not only is this not a new venue, it's the same size with the same hours, with the same types of music as what's been there for the past few operators. So I think this will turn on is, what these operators turn out to be. And as we heard from Inga, 1 or 2 operators ago, there were sidewalk problems, which dissipated under the prior establishment. So, but in terms of cars and drop-offs, I think we probably should assume it's going to be roughly the same as has been going on there for years.
Anything more, Candace?
Yeah. And Joe, and I'm going to say this to all the applicants and their representatives, it sort of does you and us a disservice to send things in the day of the meeting. It's an imposition on us. We're volunteers, most of us have day jobs. It's hard to keep track of things when they come in, the day of the meeting, but it's also bad from your perspective because it means people don't necessarily have a chance to read everything.
Yeah, totally understood. And look, we try to get things in as soon as absolutely possible, but if we're going to get something, we have something that we think is interesting, we'll share it. I know it's not ideal and I apologize for that, but even in itself, the fact that there is a security plan that's been considered and spoken about with the security professionals, I think, should be meaningful to the board, that's what they're thinking about. And they're trying to approach this in a responsible manner. So I hear you, Frank, and we do our best to get things in as timely as we can. But this one came in late.
Okay, Carrie.
Yeah, you did so much outreach and got so many letters in support. This is to Inga's comment. I would really feel a lot more comfortable if we knew by full board that you had reached out to Celis Manor, since they are literally your neighbor. And maybe you can just add that to your application.
Oh, yeah, we can do it tomorrow. I mean,
Great.
you know, these guys weren't aware of it. They're gonna go and do that tomorrow. We're not making empty promises here. We're gonna speak to people in that building. We're gonna speak to the Malibu Diner and
Great. You know, because you kind of make it seem like it's not a residential block, but you know, now that it's sort of I'm oriented, it's an extremely residential block.
Yeah, I'm definitely familiar with all what you are referring to. I see a lot of them banking in the neighborhood at the Citibank, at the Chase across the street on the east side of 23rd Street. So I see the families that what you are referring to. So definitely am aware of it, and we'll definitely do outreach on tomorrow.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any additional committee members? Anybody from the community, Nellie?
There's no one.
Okay.
So just to summarize,
Yes.
we're gonna repeat several stipulations about no open flame cooking, no outside promoters, keeping the front door closed, and you're going to get us additional capacity numbers by the 30th, and we'll include a stip that you're going to reach out to the Silas Manor building. Can we say by this Friday, May 12th?
And
that's
Malibu
fine.
Yeah, no
Diner.
problem.
And the
Okay.
diner.
Malibu Diner too.
And Malibu Diner. Yeah.
Not a problem. We're going there tomorrow.
Okay. Do I hear a resolution incorporating those tips?
Motion to approve with those stipulations.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Present not eligible? Abstaining? Okay,
And Joe, you and the applicant are okay with all those additional steps, right?
Say again?
You and the applicant are okay with the additional steps I just read?
Yes, yes, yes.
Thanks.
And I walk by a lot, so I'll be in there at night if there's a problem.
Not a problem.
No problem.
I go by as well.
Look forward to having you guys for a cocktail.
Okay.
Take care. Thank you.
Good. Last on our agenda is item number 5, a little bit further west on 23rd Street, 465 West 23rd Street. Paul Avion Group.
Yeah, hi, my name is Mark Levaya. I'm the attorney for the Par Avion Group, and I'll leave it to them to make their presentation.
Hello, everybody. My name is Frank, and this is my partner, Shirvan. Thank you for having us here. We would love to give you a little understanding of the business that we are proposing on 465 West 23rd Street. We're a small minority-owned company, but not backed by a corporate investor or anything like that. So it's all our hard-earned money going into this. So the reason why I say that is we're acutely aware of the fact that our success and our very survival in the neighborhood will depend on our acceptance in the community. So as such, we're proposing a bar, which is somewhat, I don't want to call it a replacement bar because there used to be a bar there that closed down, a French wine bar called La Pif. I believe it closed down during COVID, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. So our concept is almost exactly the same. I won't say exactly the same. We are also a bar/restaurant specializing in French wine and French food. As far as the layout is concerned, we're keeping it exactly the same. There are 43 seats in total. Only 6 of those seats are at a bar. So it's mostly a seated, in fact, it's all a seated restaurant. There is no room for standing patrons. And, like I said earlier, that we're acutely aware that a new bar opening coming into a community is going to cause concerns for noise or hours and so on. So as such, what we're proposing is more acceptable hours in our opinion. So we're proposing closing at midnight on 3 days, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, and closing at 2 a.m. on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. As far as the music is concerned, it's let me first explain this. Try to explain the ambiance that we're trying to create. Even though it's the floor plan is the same as the old bar, we're investing a lot of money in upgrading it to make it very cozy and romantic kind of place. And the music that we're playing is ambient background romantic music only. You'll barely hear it even if you stood at the door. So we're not recommending any DJ or live music or anything of that sort. This is a place where we hope local neighbors will come and enjoy a couple of glasses of wine or a specialty cocktail over a good conversation. So that's basically our concept, and we'd love to answer any questions if you have.
Thanks, gentlemen. I think you're going to hear a lot from the community, but just a little context and background for the newer community members. I vividly remember Lapeef coming before us in 2015, and it was highly controversial. And the only reason it ended up getting a recommendation of approval for us was because of very serious limitations, which included that it was a beer and wine license, that it was closing at 11:30 Sunday to Wednesday, at midnight on Thursdays, that there'd be no use of outdoor space. And one of the biggest concerns right now is that there was supposed to be no cooking on the premises other than reheating, because the place had not been previously licensed, and as I understand it, wasn't vented for any kind of cooking. And we've heard this week from people in the building saying that Lapeef evidently, as time went on, did not abide by this no cooking rule, and their smell of cooking was filling, residential apartments in that building. So that's just a little context of, what sort of we went through on this, 8 years ago.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I don't know Lapeef very well. I know of the place. As far as cooking is concerned, as you might find in our application, we're not, even if you look at our menu, we're not doing anything that's open flame cooking that requires a ventilation. We have experience through other French wine bars where we have run wine restaurant. If you're aware of that, they have 6 locations in the city, and all their cooking is done inside of a convection oven, which is what we're planning to do here. Food menu is very simple: cassoulets, tuna tartars, steak tartars, tartines, things of that sort. Nothing that requires open flame cooking. So we feel that this, with the smell factor, we've actually never heard that complaint from the other French wine bars that we have worked at. But we can even take your recommendations on the menu and change the menu in a way where we won't include any dish that might be of a smelly nature. So that's one. The other thing I wanted to do is say on the other point that you made about what's the other hours? Oh, the hours. Yeah. So about the hours, we did extensive community outreach over the past 3 months, I would say. And we literally stood around the streets and talked to neighbors for weeks on end. We collected about 80 or some odd signatures from neighbors. 50 of them are from the very building where our venue is located. And when we actually showed them our business concept and what we were looking to create, not only they enthusiastically signed on to it, they even put their apartment numbers on the petition that we have submitted for your consideration, because they wanted to be contacted in case there was a concern. So we felt that the community would benefit greatly from it. This will be a welcome place. We're even offering wine tasting. We're offering to bring in a sommelier once a week, so we can actually have wine education for the neighbors and stuff. So when you look at the concept that we're trying to propose and the conversations that we have had with, like I said, almost 80 neighbors literally on that block and within that building, we received a very positive response. But again, I leave it to your consideration. This is what we found when we did our community outreach that I basically wanted to forward to you.
Okay.
In terms of,
I'm a little confused. Did we get this petition? Because I don't see it in the Dropbox.
We got all the, I emailed it to Nelly probably last week, middle of last week, just because they didn't get all the signatures until last week. So I sent it just for you to have. I can resend it again if you'd like.
Well, I don't know, Nelly, do you recall getting it?
It should be attached to the document.
I don't see it.
It's not in the Dropbox. It is not in the Dropbox.
We FedEx it, right?
I sent it to Nelly via email.
your email.
I think I can resend it if you'd like.
Yeah, please resend it.
Yes, if we don't have it, so you should need to resend it.
I'll definitely resend it. I can send it now. I can send it when we're done. You can have it anytime.
Yeah, if you could send it to Nellie now, she'll send it around to us.
Sure, you
Thanks.
got it.
And Frank, we agree with what you were saying earlier to the other application. We don't want to be the guys who send you stuff last minute, so we'll resend you the email that we sent last week, so you know that we tried our best to get it to you 8 days ago.
Thank you.
Okay. I had a question in terms of the hours.
Yes, sir.
4 days a week, the kitchen closes 4 hours before the bar closes.
Yes, sir.
And I was wondering, what's your concept about that?
So the idea is, because we are serving French wines and a short list of specialty cocktails, the thought is in that entire block or on the intersection of 10th Avenue and 23rd Street, there is not a single place that's an option for the neighbors to go after 11 p.m. So the idea was that people would want a place that they would want to hang out after dinner. And this is what we talked to the community, to the neighbors about. And they actually said that they would like a place they could walk to.
I believe Bert's question was getting at, why are there 4 hours a night when there's going to be no food available?
Oh, if you want us to, I thought that you might prefer the kitchen closing early. I did not know that. We would be happy to serve food all the way till the closing hour, if that's the question.
I was just concerned that we're talking about 4 hours, 4 days a week, that it's just drinking.
And let me just chime in for a second. Yeah, I do understand that. I think they felt that if they close the kitchen early, that it would be just something more amenable, but they can leave it. They can actually serve food till the very end if you'd like.
Absolutely, we'll be delighted.
But also you should know there's no standing room, so it's not like it's not a drinking establishment. It's really a place to try wines or especially cocktails. It's all
I'm familiar with the layout and I'm familiar with the location.
Thank you.
Okay.
They would be more than happy to extend the hours, sure.
Yeah. One question for you folks, because this gives the potential to get really bogged down. There's been strenuous opposition to any kind of outdoor seating, not just at your location, but in the ones next to you. The restaurant right next to you was one of the hardest fought sidewalk cafe battles I can remember. Is this something that's essential to you?
So, sir, what we were hoping for, and again, we will abide by whatever the community will allow us. Like I said, our success depends on making the neighbors happy. We're a small venue. We realize nobody's coming to us from afar. All our patrons are going to be our neighbors, and if our neighbors don't like us, then we're not going to succeed. So we will abide by whatever the neighbors and the community wants. Our hope was to get a sidewalk cafe in a very limited capacity, only in summer, and shut it down by 10 p.m., literally shut down, no service outside. So that was our hope. And unlike the restaurant next door, the Cuban restaurant, where they've actually built out entire shed, we were simply going to roll out tables during between the hours of 3 p.m. and 9 to 10 p.m. and roll them back in. So we're not looking to build any structure outside. So that was our hope, that with those limited hours and only for the months of summer, we would be allowed to do so. We plan to serve nothing outside during fall or winter months.
Okay, well, let's hear from.
Yeah, we have Jesse, Mike, Candace, Inga.
Right, and I want to point out that we did find the email you sent on May 2nd with the community signatures. So
No, I resent it also.
okay, our apologies.
No problem at all.
Yeah, and my question had to do with the sidewalk cafe. I know, I think Frank is the restaurant that you were referring to, the one next. Did it go into litigation? I think it might have. There was some litigation with the city over a sidewalk cafe. So yes, let's please avoid that. But I don't even think a sidewalk. Sidewalk cafe would be or a structure in the street. I don't even think would necessarily work here because I think there's a bus lane. But I'm curious to hear. I think there's members of the community on this call. I'd like to hear what they have to say about what sounds like not a too unreasonable proposal in terms of the hours of just a few tables, if it's just a few tables, because there's really not that much room out there anyway. I assume you're just talking about a couple of, a few two tops, but
Yeah, so
if
because
it's more than that, I'm getting a little uncomfortable. We have letters from the community who are pretty opposed to it. I'm curious if there are more on the call, but it doesn't sound like it's going to make or break your business plan one way or the other. So let's see what they have to say, and I'll shut up.
Okay, Mike?
Yeah, thanks. So I'm just curious, how successful was the previous wine bar, that location? And do you have any connection to them?
No, sir, I do know one of the owners who opened it up, but I believe he was separated from the partnership the first year. I don't know anybody else who ran that place.
But I assume they didn't go out of business because they were failing. Is that right?
I think it happened during COVID, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I don't really know why they closed. I'm assuming they closed during COVID because it was around that time, I think. But sir, I really don't know what the reason why they closed. I don't know them very well.
All right, I was just curious. I wish you luck.
Thank you so much.
It's a tough spot there, as you know. There's
Where-
not a whole lot of foot traffic. The restaurants that have been, next door to you, in my recollection, the last 20 years, have all had a real tough time. And, so I really do wish you luck.
Thank you very much.
For many years, Mike, you probably remember, there was a laundry there, an Italian restaurant.
Oh, yeah.
Even on
I-
Saturday nights, it was semi-full. But for some reason,
Yeah,
they
and even
continued for like 20 years.
yeah.
That's
Well,
what
and
helped the
after
laundry.
that, Amy Sacco, who could
Oh,
bring
yeah.
anybody to a venue, she couldn't do it.
She couldn't do it.
You know,
And there was
and
also
then-
questions of how she was, the ventilation there. There was a lot of
Well,
issues.
the gas line was I guess you might have felt that, huh? The gas line.
I remember it
Yeah.
didn't break, I think. Anyway,
Anyway, okay. Well,
okay.
good luck to you.
Thanks, Mike.
Bye.
Candace?
Yeah.
Very much appreciated.
My question was also about the sidewalk cafe, just the concern and the prior steps. There was they had asked, the community had asked for the no sidewalk. There was a whole petition, everything like that. So you already have 4 on just the row. You have like 8 tops out there on just, and that's minimum of 10 feet. So you're taking up almost half the sidewalk. And then I would just, if we do, consider this, that we reduce the tables outside. We need the sidewalk. It's where people walk. I do want, to enjoy wine outside, but I do want a sidewalk as well. So that would be my concern.
Understood, Candace. We can resupply a floor plan with a reduced number of tables. So hopefully, the one reason why we thought this would be a good location for a sidewalk, because we measured it was, pardon me, from where I live. By the way, I live on 22nd Street, so I'm not too far away from there. So compared to my street, we thought the sidewalk was really, really wide, 23 feet wide sidewalk. So we were going to take about roughly 10 feet of it and leave the 13 feet alone. But if you would like us to take a lesser room, we can reduce a row. So it'll be a smaller number of tables if that works for you.
Yeah, you just have I think a planter box there, a mailbox. So it's already 5 feet. That's taking up. So you're just kind of reducing it even a little bit more.
Understood.
And if you were, even if a sidewalk cafe were acceptable, and I'm not saying it is, even if it were acceptable, you couldn't operate it, at least probably for another year, since there's work on the outside of the building for local.
Oh, yes, absolutely. We're aware of that. Yeah.
Okay, Inga.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to speak in the capacity of the London Terrace Tenants Association, in addition to my role here. So do you want me to wait until the public speaks? I wasn't sure
If
how.
you're talking for the London Terrace Tenants Association, I think I would prefer that you wait for the public.
I'm going to speak. It's the same person, but I will speak then, saying the same thing I would now as a BLP member and a resident of this block. So I will speak then.
Okay, thank you, Inga. Carrie.
Yeah, I just wanted to, you mentioned 9 o'clock closing on outdoor, and I want to know if that's real and you would stipulate to that.
I mentioned 10 o'clock. We're requesting 10 o'clock closing outside. Only for the summer months, by the way.
Yeah. Okay, so you won't stipulate to 9. Sorry, that's
Okay.
what I wrote down, but
Are you?
I think he's asking, will you stipulate to 9?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yes, I guess we can accommodate that, sure. If that will please the community.
let's hope so. Let's hope it does. Because what will happen is that, if one person shows up tonight and this gets approved, 50 people will show up at full board and it will not get approved. So we're trying to figure out, how to help the community get past, their concerns with this sidewalk cafe, which we know they're already concerned. So thank you.
Okay. Anybody else from the community? I mean, from the committee. And now Nellie from the community. Is there anybody out there?
Yes, we have one person. We have Mary Ellen.
And then Inga was also from the community. Okay. Mary Ellen, you want to go ahead? You're on mute.
Yeah, let me start the video. There you go. Hi. Hi. I want to thank the committee. We've participated in many of these meetings over the years, and in some ways you have a thankless task, but we really appreciate what you do for all of us who are residents and business owners and have lived in this neighborhood. I'm a owner and shareholder and have apartments in London Terrace in the area. I also teach land use policy and public policy in architecture programs. So I'm very familiar with what the policies are in New York City and also abroad. I appreciate new business owners coming in. And as you said, minority business owners. I do a lot of work with the immigrant community and particularly with refugees and have just come back from the border. So we have a very active community in London Terrace and on the block and in the neighborhood. And there's been a history, first of all, with the neighborhood. And I'm going to go through some talking points that people have asked me to introduce. And we will be very active and present when the next meeting comes up. The other thing is that we have a petition circulating about the outdoor tables, which we have been very active. We have gone before city council, we have legal counsel, and there's some things that I just want to point out that are part of the process that were not adhered to in terms of looking at the guidelines, both legally, but also what the city is proposing. So first of all, I want to read from another resident what they asked me, that they were unable to attend. And that with LaPeef, so the site where the former tenant was, where they're proposing to put in Par Avion, it has never been a restaurant or a bar before that point. So in saying that it has been grandfathered in some way, there was immediate objection to a bar being put in, and they also categorized themselves as being sophisticated. And so with somebody that asked me to write is that LaPeef was forbidden to have a restaurant. Nonetheless, they found a way to cook with small appliances doing so. And as Frank mentioned, they produced a stench that permeated 465. Many of the floors were subject to the consternation and constant outrage complaints of the building residents. A new restaurant should be absolutely blocked from serving any form of cooked or warmed up food. There's no room for sidewalk cafes, another point they're making, and they too should be forbidden. And I completely, as they wrote, agree that including Kalyadao that draws loud, dirty, late night crowds completely incongruous with a large residential neighborhood. So I want to begin with, first of all, the application that you submitted and the plan for the outdoor tables. You have 12 tables that are in that plan that you have. You're showing a 23 by 23 square foot sidewalk area. First of all, that's not accurate. We have submitted a plan after we went out and measured. First of all, it fails to show the planter, which is 6 feet by 9.33 feet. Adjacent to that is a mailbox that's permanent, that's 2 feet by 2 feet. And then there's another post that is 4 feet from that. So that entire frontage that is 6 feet is not something that can be considered as sidewalk space that can be in use. So from that space, and per New York City guidelines, as well as the state of New York, there's an additional 8 feet for the sidewalk and for clearance. For London Terrace and the condominium, right, which is the entity, not the co-op portion, the laundry rooms, which are in the basement and have ventilation for the laundry facilities for the dryer, per the standard building code, there at least needs to be 12.5 inches of clearance for the dryers to vent from the building. So nothing can even actually be within that area. So that takes another. So what it leaves you with is actually 8 feet. Additionally, per the New York City guidelines for outdoor cafes, is that there needs to be a clearance of 3 feet to adjacent businesses. So that would be the business as you're facing your entrance to the right, which would be Kalyadao, and then to the right, which is the London Terrace Condominium Association. So that immediately takes out those tables on those two sides, which would leave then for ADA accessibility, we're looking at a significantly reduced number than the 12 tables that you have put in there. And my studio and also other colleagues, we're working on the final number, but that's an inaccurate representation of what's actually there. So just to go through these details again, that there must be 3 feet from the adjacent business. There has to be an 8-foot cleared path for pedestrians to move through. There are many, many, many people that move on that sidewalk. We have an age range of people that are living in the buildings. There's also at certain times with schools and the millions of people, which is part of the reason why I'm sure you want your business to be there, that are going up to the High Line. Make it so that the safety and security in the area, it's paramount to those of us and to the surrounding neighborhood that this is adhered to and respected. So again, the obstructions were not noted in your submission, nor was there any information about the clearance for the dryer and the vents of the building. So the site was not accurately represented to submit your application to the community board. The other is that the hours, the site was actually, it was open Latif till 11 o'clock. It wasn't 11:30. There were constant problems with noise, with garbage, with over occupancy, ignoring the hours. You can look up the complaints to 311 of the number of calls that were made. And this continued, and they failed, right, to respond to the neighborhood. So this was a problem. There was also vermin. There ended up being a rat problem that was also established. And because of this increase of not only the people, but the garbage and the noise and the opening hours. So the opening hours are something that we can promise you that the neighborhood and the residents will object to in what you're proposing strongly, very, very strongly. So now I just want to go through some of the notes that you made in your letter that you submitted that we have gone through. As you said, that you'd intend to open a sophisticated and intimate wine bar. The previous owner, Lapif, said that they were also opening a sophisticated wine bar. We had patrons that were throwing up out in front of the establishment. We have documentation of all of this, including all the garbage that would appeared, the vermin, the rats, the opening hours, and then the overcapacity. The other is that you offer, classic French fare, which, we appreciate. The proposed seating is not in compliance with what the city's guidelines are. We've submitted that to the community board. The presence of an additional on-site license area operating in the wine bar, the neighborhood is actually against, so I'm curious to who you ended up getting to sign your petition. We have another petition that's circulating, and when this happened previously with the outdoor cafe, we had hundreds of signatures from people that live in the area. So the other thing is that this space was never programmed to be a bar until the last tenant was there, and they failed, part of it because they didn't have the buy-in from the community, and also the way in which they were operating and ignored all of the guidelines, made them, that was their own. So it wasn't COVID, it was how they handled the business and what they were actually providing, which is something that's it's not necessary. So you also comment on a moderately priced and intimate wine bar and restaurant for sophisticated patrons to enjoy a beautiful atmosphere. And that the number of patrons that choose to dine have a glass of wine as their neighborhood spot before after shopping. So sophisticated and moderately priced in New York City are incongruous. So there's galleries and shopping that can be done if one is in the area, but nobody's here to buy a pair of shoes. And what this neighborhood and how it distinguishes itself, because it's a historic neighborhood and the block's characteristic depends on that and the architecture that has been maintained. It's the lack of commercialization. And as we know, as Jane Jacob and Susan Sontag stated, who was a resident here, that we live here, this is our home, it's our neighborhood, it's not for sale. There's also no kitchen on the premises. So the other point of the neighborhood that has commercial businesses, retail stores, restaurants in proximity, and that you make a note about Lapif unfortunately closing. Actually, we were very pleased that Lapif closed, and that this will be a positive impact and that there's similar establishments in the community. Well, first of all, that's a false statement around the closure, and because it did close and the business was not missed. The previous tenant was not well received. In fact, there's numerous complaints that developed, and in the manner in which it was damaging to the character of the neighborhood with the noise, the vermin, the garbage, ignoring the hours of operation, being over capacity, and numerous complaints to the city and 311. You can check those records, they're available. Finally, unlike nightclubs and bars, it's anticipated that Par Avion will not draw large numbers at any particular time of day. And that it's going to be low volume, pre-recorded ambient music, and that it's not going to exceed noise levels. Well, this is also what Lapif said, and this was not accurate. The noise levels that had to be, the calls that had to be made to 311. So you have no idea what's going to happen as a business proprietor. And it's one thing to anticipate what your potential client base will be, but to run the numbers in anticipation of opening an establishment of this size in order for it to be successful, we've run the math, and what's being proposed is actually false. And how could it be an action taken in good faith, with also the lack of consideration of the residents in London Terrace, which is going to be an issue. At the conclusion, as you also write, of food and drinks, that the patrons apart will leave the premises on foot or seek cabs or mass transportation. Therefore, there's no additional noise or crowds in the area. Leaving part, it's the hope that there'll be a place for residents to enjoy. This statement is also not true. What we saw from Lapeef, from the records of people vomiting out in front, the noise and shouting, the extension of hours after which they were supposed to be closed, not adhering to what they agreed to per the business and the guidelines that were set up by the community board. And we have the records of this. 311 has the records, and also we have the petition that's circulating. Most of the patrons are expected to come from locations in Manhattan or ride by foot, taxi cabs, or transportation. This is also not accurate. What we saw is that, first of all, you have no idea who the patrons are going to be, and that the experience for this type of establishment is that it became a destination in part due to the High Line. There was considerable traffic and parking that affected the neighborhood. The reputation as restaurant owners, you stated in the letter also that you don't have experience, but you have experience in advertising, which, you know, we appreciate, but as a bar operator and being on the ground, it's a very different set of skills. And finally, that it will operate a first-class, high-quality wine bar. There was no indication of it being also serving cocktails, which is something that we're also opposed to. That it'll attract a desirable clientele. Well, Lapeef also thought it would be attractive and desirable. It wasn't. When you see the actions that we've recorded and submitted to the city, as I've stated, adding quality dining to the neighborhood will improve the local economy. This is also not true. So we think that it's going to have a negative impact on the neighborhood. The bar creates noise, garbage, vermin, traffic issues, accessibility, and harms the unique characteristic of the block in London Terrace. It's not a transient neighborhood or residence. People stay here and they remain here. And so there isn't the support for this license and this type of establishment.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Inga, please.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mary Ellen. So I am speaking on behalf of the London Terrace Tenants Association. I am the president. The Tenants Association, which consists of 1,000 residents that live in London Terrace, not in the towers. We abut them, so our building is right next to the restaurant bar. Like Mary Ellen said, we second everything. It was vehemently fought against to have this in the first place. I think Frank, did it go to an Article 78? I mean, it was really Calidao also. And on top of that, Calidao is open until 10 o'clock at night and maybe 11 on, we restricted their hours when they got their license. This is an entire block that is residential. There's nothing, it's residential. Both sides of the street. I believe there's a letter that you received from the 400 side on the south side. They also opposed the last application. They opposed this one because they'll look right at it. They have filed numerous complaints against the owners that were there previously. So I'm representing 1,000 people that say, 1,000 apartments that say no to this. This entire block is residential. It is all residential. There are thousands and thousands of people here. It's completely residential. The hours are absolutely unacceptable. The sidewalks are crowded with High Line traffic. There's a sidewalk shed that will be up there for a year to 2 years, I'm told. So, which is already an obstruction. Calidao, we're still fighting to get their sidewalk shed moved out of the bus lane. They tried to put a sidewalk cafe up against the dryer vents. That didn't work. They are part of a larger restaurant group, which is floating them. They are mostly empty all the time. No one here goes there. It's just, it's not the right place. It's a residential block from start to finish. It is all residents, and we live right above it, next to it. So we've got pictures of people, we have all the evidence. This was vehemently fought back then. So yes, Frank, you were right. I think that's when I got on board. I joined the community board.
Okay,
You know, a
Nellie.
lot of people that way.
Nellie, is there anybody else in the community? Because I only see we have 14.
One more thing, actually, west of 8th Avenue, there are no sidewalk cafes. So for 2 whole blocks, there's nothing on the sidewalk.
Okay, I see we have 3 more committee members who want to make some
Yeah.
comments, or are we talking about a resolution here?
You're right, Bert. Before we do that, though, I just want to summarize the stuff we got from the community.
Oh, okay. This is
They came-
additional community.
Yeah, they came in pretty late today, and I'm not sure everyone saw them.
Yeah, I see we have 4,
Um,
we have 4 committee people who have their hands up.
Yeah, this is someone writing on behalf of the executive committee of the West 400 Block Association, who points out that the prior establishment did not have a sidewalk cafe, that other places close at 11. Nothing is open until 2 a.m. except for a coffee shop at 43rd and 9th. It's inappropriate to have any outdoor space. Staying open till 2 seems to be too late for this community. Therefore, we recommend the committee reject the 2 a.m. closing hour and weigh all the concerns of the neighbors in having another sidewalk cafe. However, we do not have a problem with the concept of a wine bar also offering food at this location. And then the other one, which I think may have been summarized by Mary Ellen, is chiefly about the food smells, that they found a way to cook. This is Lapeef. Their stench permeated the 465 building, smelling up many floors. A new restaurant should absolutely be blocked from any form of cooked or warmed up food. There's absolutely no room for sidewalk tables, and they too should be forbidden.
Who is that from, Frank?
That is from a resident of Ann Northrop from 465 West 423rd.
Yep, and Northrop. Okay,
Yeah, that's what we got in writing.
okay. We have Mike, Carrie, Ted, Jesse. Mike?
Sorry, I was just looking for a graphic. I don't oftentimes get this opportunity to spill this statistic, but to embellish on what Inga said, in terms of how many people live in London Terrace, it is the most population dense place on earth. You know that, right, Inga? That one block has more people per square foot than anywhere, certainly in our country, and I think in Asia as well, in the entire universe that we know of. So yeah, you got to think about that. That's a lot of people, and if they're trickling in and out of their homes, kind of go to sleep, and well, the whole thing. So that's it. Had to say it.
Thank you.
Okay.
I think what Mike's trying to say is that those people will be at the next meeting.
So, yeah, all of them.
So, no, I wanted to ask because, I think, and I'll speak for myself, but the gist feels like the stipulations that would be required to approve this application, I can maybe float a couple by you guys and see if you think that they'll be amenable. Also to Inga, and Mary Ellen, what would it take to have a restaurant / wine bar in this location? No outdoor cafe, closing by 11 o'clock. No cooked food.
Even a convection oven, it's cooking. So no food, period.
And did I miss anything? Because I just want to maybe present that as an option and see what the applicants would say
so-
to that.
Inga, I believe the state liquor authority requires anyone with a liquor license to serve food.
You have to have. food.
No cooked
Some
food
kind.
though. Does
We
it have,
can't
can you have
prevent that, but we
sandwiches?
can. Yeah.
There's
it
no
can be-
kitchen, so there shouldn't be a wine bar there. There never was. It
No.
was a mistake to begin with.
No, the sidewalk cafe and the cooking have been the biggest issues since I started looking at this for me too.
So
Mhm.
there's no possibility for the tenants of London Terrace to get behind this.
They won't.
Okay, thank you.
May I,
I mean,
Ed?
can we respond?
Yeah,
Wait,
you may.
excuse me, hold on a second. We have two more committee people, and then if you want to respond, okay. Kerry, is your hand still up? And, okay, Ted?
I wanted to ask Inga who the landlord is, because it seems you guys own the whole building, and why would he rent out to someone that wouldn't have to be
Ted, just for information purposes, Ted,
Good
the
question.
space they're renting from is not the rental part
Correct.
of London Terrace. Well, Inga is the London Terrace Gardens tenants.
Mhm. So the towers are separate.
Corner of the London Terrace Co-op,
Mhm.
but there's a London Terrace condominium, a condo, which has number of different units. One of the units of the condo is the residences of the towers, the co-op, and then there's the commercial part. So whoever they're renting from is the commercial unit of the condo.
And they, at one point, had a not so good board and they sold some of their properties. So
Yes.
some guy who lives in Hawaii maybe owns some of their buildings, their spaces. So the co-ops can't even, they don't get the rent from those. They foolishly sold them.
The
They
condo doesn't get the rent.
condos. They had a bad board at one time and they sold those. So even the condo people that live there have no control over who they go to. It's a problem.
I mean, I see, obviously I hear the tenants' concerns, I just don't like blaming an applicant based on what happened with the other applicant prior. I think as a wine and cheese place, I don't understand why they would be going for a full liquor license. And I would recommend them get just a beer and wine, close at 11 and serve charcuterie boards, the cheese and that, not cook, and maybe cut the outside seating. And I think maybe that might be more amendable to,
At a minimum.
yeah, at a minimum to get approved. And
Okay.
satisfy
Of
the,
course, they have to agree to it, Ted.
definitely.
Okay, Jesse, thank you.
No, yeah, I think we're there. I think it's time to turn it over to the applicant to, I mean, I can hear, guys, just from the way this conversation is going, everything that Carrie's mentioned, Ted has mentioned, I think that's what's going to be required here to get our approval. So with that being said, what say you? Is your business plan still work?
It actually does not. So, way to be candid. Listen, we're very honest and upfront people. We don't like to beat around the bush or try to pull a fast one on anybody. What you see is what you get. We obviously don't want to be in a situation where the community is not welcoming our business. If that's the case, then we will respectfully pull out. But I must say that I believe that it's unfair that Lapeef was mentioned 19 times. We're not Lapeef, but Part Avion Group. And there is a restaurant right next door to us, the Cuban place. Nobody mentions about how many problems they've had or if they had any problems. So I'm assuming that their operation is running smoothly. So why are we being blamed for Lapeef? And from the sound of everything that we heard about Lapeef, does sound like it was a horrifically operated place. And I'm not surprised they're closed. So I'm glad your neighborhood got rid of that. But we come from we both worked at the Windsor Wine Bar. Like I said, it's the largest French wine bar company in Manhattan. They have 6 locations. In every single one of those locations, they are the favorite part of the neighborhood. If you actually walk into any one of those 6 locations, Wine Servant, and ask a patron sitting on the sidewalk or inside, the likelihood is 9 out of 10 times they live right above. So neighbors enjoy this. The other thing I also want to say is, I also feel that it's unfair to say that the building has 1,000 residents and to automatically assume that every single one of those 1,000 residents does not want a wine bar or a place to hang out in walking distance. The reality is I live on 22nd Street. This is on 23rd Street. Granted, I'm a little bit further east. Me and my friends, whenever we're buying an apartment or renting an apartment, there are those people who actually look for an apartment where we have hospitality places within walking distance. So I think it's unfair to say that you have 1,000 people living in your building and all 1,000 of them will oppose it. The reality is, vast majority of the residents within that building that we spoke to enthusiastically signed our petition and even put their apartment numbers on there saying, hey, if anybody has any questions, ask them to contact us. And these are just 50 or 60 people that we talk to. God knows if we talk to more people, what the sentiment might be. So I do believe, but at the same time, now I understand the sidewalk cafe, not done on purpose, misrepresented the, what do they call it, the mailbox. We received the floor plan from the landlord, and we did our seating plan according to that. So that was not intentional. And yes, if the sidewalk cafe does not work, it doesn't work, that's fine, we can remove that. And remember, mind you, somebody mentioned that nobody wants to run into people sitting on the sidewalk cafe at 2 o'clock in the morning. We had already agreed to 9 p.m. closing of the sidewalk cafe, and we were only requesting sidewalk cafe for the summer months, May maximum 2 or 3, 4 months maximum. So there are a lot of things here that they're not quite as bad as somehow been represented. As far as the hours of operation, yes, 11 p.m. closing will not work for us. The reality is it is a wine bar. We can't serve breakfast in a wine bar. We don't have the opportunity of making revenue from breakfast. So or even lunch for that matter. So our very survival success depends on those hours where people could have a few glasses of wine after they have finished their dinner. As for the last thing, I'll address the food place. We had even offered that we would actually submit an alternate menu to the community board here for their approval, food that we designed to not produce any smell. We would not be cooking pop salmon or pop masu, things of that sort that smell. We would actually even be flexible enough to supply food that's only approved by the community board, so you can attest to the fact that this type of food does not carry a scent. So we were willing to be very, very flexible in our opinion, and we still want to be. But unfortunately, if we're not allowed opening past 11 p.m. on certain nights, that simply does not. It just makes it a very, very risky investment for us. And I would respectfully submit, person who might come after us, who might want to rent this place, might fight even harder or might be even a more poor tenant. We just truly believe that we want to be flexible enough to work with the community, but it has to be within reason. And what the steps that are proposed right now simply would render us unsuccessful within a few months of opening the business.
We certainly do appreciate your flexibility, but I want to stress that the stipulations and provisions that we would like are not based on the experience of Le Pif, but are based on your proposed operations. So it's a response to your proposed operations, not the experience with the previous tenant. So we're trying to stay here. And the stipulations were out there. And could you summarize them, Frank?
Yeah, no, I was going to say, and in fact, they were the stipulations that the prior operator agreed to before we knew they were a bad operator. So it is that at the time, it has nothing to do with you folks, with we tarring you with the Lepif reputation. It's that this was the bare minimum that the community could live with, 7 years ago, and it hasn't changed. So that's sort of the reason that's come up at all. But yeah, basically, Bert, it was supposed to be no cooking, no sidewalk cafe, and at least our letter said closing 11:30 Sunday to Wednesday at midnight Thursday, Saturday. I know Mary Ellen thought those hours were different, but that's what our letter says. I'm trying to think where we go from here.
Yeah.
Because to the applicant, I don't think you're going to get a recommendation of approval from this committee on anything close to your original proposal. The question is, does it make sense for you to try to meet with Inga? Does the Tenants Association have monthly meetings? Could these folks come and talk to the Tenants Association, or?
We have so many people. We have our large meeting again is going to be, we just had one, will be in October. We have smaller board meetings, which are, just the board members. All of our residents will meet again in October. We just met in March. But Cali Dow fought and fought and fought, and they have 11 and 10 closed. And it's because there are thousands of residents across the street and thousands. It's just a completely residential block. It is more residential than any side streets.
Yeah.
Well, to the applicant, do you need more time to think about, what you heard tonight and see if you can live with it or propose something in between? Do you want to come back next month? Do you want us to take a vote? Do you want us to take a vote on, your original proposal? I'm just trying to brainstorm here about what makes most sense.
Can I ask Inga something?
Sure.
Do you think the tenants would be more mendable to letting them stay open with later hours if they took the liquor component and just had beer and wine so they don't have the vomiting on the street? That seemed to be a big concern.
I think the wine bar, they didn't have liquor, did they, Frank? I think they had wine. They were beer and wine.
All right, I was under the idea that they had.
No, I know they were beer and wine, believe it or not. But you were getting outsiders. You're getting highline. You're getting tourists that no one, because it's so residential. We have so many places to walk to that are close. Why go in your own home to go drink?
Okay, Tina, Jesse.
Yeah, I mean, what I saw happen during this meeting was movement. It sounded like the people who are applying came in with certain stipulations and they're willing to negotiate. And I understand, trust me, I would feel uncomfortable at this point voting for the application, but I also saw a lot of movement. So Frank, I mean, I liked your idea about them talking, because perhaps you guys can come to some resolution. I mean, now they're taking away tables, it sounds like, and they might come down to 1 or 2, and the hours have shifted. And I don't know, like I said, I would hate a vote to occur tonight only because I would have had to listen to the community who's so strongly against it as is, but might not be so strongly against it when the two sides talk.
Right. As to the applicant again, as you've probably sensed, you're sort of wading into a hornet's nest, which I think is the only way I can put it. We have been through this with Lepif. We've been through this multiple times with Inga, what's the name of the place? Callioco. And that got elected officials involved. I can't remember, there might have actually even been litigation. It really was. There were other, all the sides got more lawyers. The other thing for you to think about, is this really a battle you want to fight? Even if you were to get our approval and the full board's approval, it's not going to stop there, I don't think.
Yeah, no, we're certainly not in here to fight. If the community, if not welcomed in the community, then we will respectfully withdraw our
But I
application.
think you make a valid point about, which is why I had hoped there was some, meeting where you could address, more of the community together. I mean, it's a little tough to assess comparing, you have a petition, Inga's president of the Tenants Association, which obviously carries a lot of weight. But we do know that the community has come out in large numbers against, establishments with far more limited hours and such than you're proposing here. So I don't think this committee is going to want to approve it with anything like your current closing hours.
We understand that, and we can sense that too. That's fair, and thank you for articulating that. We would ask that we would want to come back to you with a revised proposal, if that's okay.
Okay. All right, and you'll agree not to file with the SLA in the interim?
Yes.
Okay.
No, I mean, I think it's important to note that they, again, like he said, this client, they're really nice guys. They want to work with the community, and if the community doesn't really want them and it's not going to be able to work, they don't want to litigate, fight with anybody.
Well, respectfully, but
they want the
withdraw an
community,
application.
the community doesn't want them, and they don't. I mean, I feel
Okay,
like that.
we hear that, and we'd appreciate that you will rethink it and perhaps come back.
Right. And I do believe their intentions are sincere in that regard. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Bert and Inga, is there anybody they should try to meet with just to further explore like the neighborhood concerns and what a middle ground might be?
I mean, they can send what their proposal is and I can put it for my board, but I suspect Cali Dow was fought tooth and nail for 10 and 11. We don't want a bar in our residence. That's basically in our residence.
So, I mean, just to be clear, you guys you're not going to get behind this. What it sounds like.
I can't see it happening. I know what happened last time. We had the city speaker, we have the senator, we have the senator.
Like I said, we're not going there. If you guys, I feel like if you're to be honest with us, that your community is not going to bend on the hours, but we can accept it, but we just don't want to spin our wheels. We have to deal with the landlord. If that's
Inga, you have your tenants newspaper as well, right?
Yeah. I mean, you're welcome to send us what you think, but from the whole neighborhood, there will be people from the block across the street that are facing you. There will be so many people. Yeah, I don't see it happening, but we're welcome to entertain it.
And look, you don't have to decide tonight.
Right.
What we'll say is that you're putting it over till next month. And if after thinking about it, you don't think you can come up with a business plan that works, or the community opposition seems intractable, you can, let us know you don't want to go forward, but you don't have to make that decision tonight. All we're doing is putting it over a month for, you to, give some thought to what's possible for you.
Frank, where do we stand now, Frank, in terms of what we would expect would work?
Wouldn't it be that it's the same stipulations as the previous operator, but a good operator? So the same stipulations as the previous operator, but who actually follow those stipulations.
Right.
So 11 and 12, if I'm remembering right, Frank.
Well, our letter was 11:30 and 12.
11:30 and 12, no outdoor cafe, and no cooked food.
Restricted to the food, yes.
No cooked food, or however they know it's an issue, however we resolve it, whether it's a menu that, someone approves, or however we do that. Yeah, I think that's it. Would there be any flexibility on the closing hours? If they agree to the other stuff, I don't know. It sounds like.
I appreciate the group trying and considering and retaking of the discussion. We really do appreciate you looking into it. So please allow us a day or two to assess on our side and see if we can resubmit a proposal.
Right.
Right, so you have a month.
Yeah, yeah.
It would be, we meet again in June.
Right.
Sounds good. Thank you for your time.
And the one point I'd make to the committee, which is something the applicant made, and it's something you've heard me say a lot, this space is gonna be on the market. So something everyone has to take into account is, you know, how does this applicant compare to the next 1 or 3 or 6 people who come down the road? And is the community going to, you know, have the energy to fight and the resources to fight them all off?
And I would just throw in, this space will be on the market, and across the street on the west side of 10th Avenue, the bar restaurant that has been there for many, many, many years has gone out of business or whatever I don't know exactly why. It's closed.
Yeah.
But I assume that also is going to be before us in the next couple of months. That's the old Hawthorne.
And I thank you both for bringing that up. We were aware of that too. And this is what I was trying to suggest earlier. We are the kind of people, now I know these are only words, we have no proof to offer you other than, you know, our past French wine bars that we were talking about, where we have literally become gelled with the community, and you can literally walk in and ask a patron and find out that they're literally from that building. We were hoping to do the same here. I would say this, that like I was saying earlier, the next guys that come in here, hopefully you'll get really good guys there, but there is no surety that you might get a really good operator the next time around either. And as far as the tenants, and I do realize it's a very residential area, but what I am surprised about, as you might understand, we would not, you know, no one would spend this much energy, 2-3 months of community outreach to the neighbors, if we had not seen positive signs. What I'm surprised about from this meeting, which is new learning for me, is every neighbor that we talk to, like I said, many from that building itself and many from the building across, every single one enthusiastically signed the petition, which is the reason why we even stand before you. Otherwise, we would not even have, you know, done 2 or 3 weeks worth of work submitting our application. So we're surprised about the fact that when we say that every single neighbor living on this block doesn't want a bar, the ones we talked to very much wanted it. So that's a little bit of a surprise for us. And I don't know why that is.
Well, no, and quite frankly, you know, the fact that you were getting support is a surprise to us, because we have never, this committee has never heard any kind of meaningful support for either of these 2 spaces in the Manhattan Terrace.
We completely believe that, but we please do, we encourage you to please look at those petitions and actually the apartment numbers listed on it. Vast majority of them right from London Terrace itself, which is what surprises us today. But it is what it is, and we respect that.
All right. No, and we appreciate your efforts.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and do reach out.
Will do. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. We have a
Motion to adjourn?
But first, we got to take a deep breath.
It was supposed to be the shortest meeting ever.
Well, we had the shortest agenda.
I know.
That's correct. When
But it's only 8:30.
It's short, but it's not the shortest.
All right.
Okay, everybody.
Everybody.
Thank you
I
all.
appreciate everyone's
Persevere.
careful analysis of that last one. It's a tough
Yeah, thank you.
call.
Bye, everybody.
Thank y'all.
Bye.